Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started with a song. It's called Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. And it's May. We've got to celebrate a little bit. Thank you for coming back. It's been a few weeks. I think some of you may know this, so feel free to sing along. And go from there. Thank you for being with me. What a fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how sweet to walk in the pilgrim's way, leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how bright the path grows from day to day, leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning on the everlasting arms. What have I to dread? What have I to fear? Leaning on the everlasting arms. I have blessed peace with my Lord so near, leaning on the everlasting arms. Everybody, leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning on the everlasting arms. All right, thank you so much for joining in song with me on that. A little bit fun, a little bit of celebration there. Great to be back. I was last here at Easter. Some of you asked me to come back, and I felt that I had a little something I wanted to share this week. My hair is a little longer, having to get a little more creative with the mousse and all of that. I'm sure you're in the same boat if you're still in lockdown, quarantine, all of that. As I thought about that song that I wanted to do, another song from my childhood kind of thing, I was thinking about that word, everlasting. It's quite a word, right? Everlasting. Forever. Forever. How many things do we have that are forever? Sun comes up. Sun goes down. I guess we can count on that. The seasons. We can count on 4 seasons. Strange as, that they may vary sometimes. The earth, the universe, I guess those are forever. We can count on those. Are people forever? I don't know. what else is forever? Love, God, if you so believe in God. But love, I think, is forever. When somebody that we really love passes on, that love continues. We talk about that person for generation after generation after generation, and we learn from the example of that person, and we learn to love ourselves. So in that way, love is everlasting. When somebody awful and hateful dies, the history books may remember them, but I don't think we're passing on that kind of hatred unless you really are of the sickest mind. But love, I think, is eternal. There are so many things that are not everlasting, and we're learning that more than ever. Our jobs may not be forever. Our relationships may not be forever. The place that we're renting or owning may not be forever. Our 401ks may not last forever. Whatever your situation is, we've learned that a lot is not forever. But I want to point out with a little message today that might be controversial to some, but I want to make a distinction between what is everlasting, what is forever, does not mean it doesn't change. I think a lot of people get stuck in the idea that it was that way before, so it's got to be that way again, and it's got to stay that way because it's always been that way. I don't think that's what forever is. In my writing classes that I teach, that's called an appeal to tradition, which is known as a fallacy. It's always been done that way, so it's got to be done that way again. And the traditions maybe always weren't the best, so it can be a fallacy. But I think that God changes. I think a lot of people think that God is this being, this thing, and he is always the same. And I'm using the pronoun he because obviously God is a presence. It doesn't know gender, but we need to use a pronoun just for sake of communication. We can go back as far back as the first book of Genesis. Right away in the creation story, God created the world, and he created man and put man in the garden. And then God looked and said, I think he needs a companion. And so he created woman. God changed his mind. He realized, I think I got something better here. Also in Genesis, later, after the flood with Noah, God promised, I will never destroy my people again. And he symbolized that with the rainbow as a symbol of the promise. And I don't know if any of you have friends on social media that from New York or Northeast or whatever, but about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we had thunderstorms, and there was this incredible rainbow right over Manhattan. And I was reminded of that story, and I thought, wow, God's promise. We will not be destroyed. We may be challenged, but we will not be destroyed. So we saw that rainbow a couple of weeks ago. God realized after a couple thousand years that the law wasn't working the way he intended. So he brought somebody down to show us the way of love. God changed his mind. And all through the Bible, you can see all kinds of deal making going on between God and Abraham, and God and Moses, and God and David and Job, all of the rest. But the exciting part of all this, if we think that God changes, God can change, is that we are made in his image. Again in Genesis 1:26, let us make man in our own image. I won't get into the we and the our and the pronouns of God there. That's another message. But if we're made in God's image, then we change too. We should change. We have to change. We must adapt. That is to me, that is part of what being in God's image is. The ability to change, the ability to see things, the ability to change and constantly. I thought of a time, I don't know, it was like 15 years ago. My dad is pretty conservative, and from a young age, from about 11 or 12 years on, when I became somewhat politically aware, I've always loved having arguments with my dad about politics. But there was a point about 15 years ago when we had some kind of family meeting or something, and my father said something that surprised me. Wasn't his usual way of thinking, and I don't even remember what it was, but I do remember saying to him, "Wow, what made you change your mind on that?" And he said, "Watching 4 kids grow up." And I thought, wow, see, that's good parenting. And that, in a way, I think is what God is like. That God creates us, the children, we do our thing, and every once in a while God steps in, or God changes and says, that wasn't working so well. My children are teaching me something. So my father was taught by whatever it was that we were doing just growing up and living our lives, and changed his opinion on something. So we can change, we should change. But it's hard. People don't like change. What are you missing? What do you want to go back to? I know here in New York, it's huge to have our Broadway. I love the little jazz and the cabaret clubs. And I have to ask myself, is that coming back? When will that come back? I think Broadway will survive, but when will people feel comfortable crowding into a Broadway theater or a sports arena, or even a big concert in Central Park, something like that? So we need to use this time to think about changes that may come. These protesters that we've seen in Michigan and other places this last week, very angry, they want to get back to work. Everybody understands that. We need a living wage, we need to be working, we need to be making money, and all of that. But I do think a big part of that is a fear of change, wanting to hang on to something that we had before, go back to the same job, go back to, there's some good in that. Like, wow, we're now thankful for the things that we might have been complaining about a month or two ago. But I do think that part of that is a fear of change, that we can't go back to exactly what we had before. I know for myself, I'm 13 years into teaching at the university. I'm an adjunct, which means I'm contracted year by year, and I do have benefits. But as an adjunct, which is what most professors are these days, salary's not great. I have another job and all of that. But for the first time, the enrollment is way down for the fall. So we were told last week, there's no guarantee that we'll come back in the fall. And that would interrupt my benefits and whatever salary I get there. So I have to be thinking, what's that going to be like to not go back to teaching? I wanted to get to at least 15 years for a little bump in my pension, but other plans. I had thought that I would want to buy property this year for the first time in my life, and that may not come to pass. How do I readjust my thinking, readjust my dreams? Sadly, our dreams aren't always forever. Sometimes we need to adjust our dreams or change our dreams. That's part of growth, I guess. So, changing, adapting. But the good news is, as I said in the first song, God is everlasting. And as he promised in Hebrews 13:5, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Now, in difficult times like this, many of us might be finding ourselves crying up to heaven, where are you? Where are you, God? But if we're honest, you might have to ask yourself, did God leave me? Or did I leave God? I think of my life. I get very busy and all this, and I think to myself, maybe I left God. And then we start getting back God a little bit during times like this when we have to reach out to something else. Well, God is there. So I'd like to close with another song, not a hymn. This last week there was a televised concert for the 90th birthday of Stephen Sondheim, one of our great musical theater composers. And it was all, of course, done in camera, close-up filming of these songs, great songs by stars singing from their own living rooms and things. It was quite fascinating. And when I heard this song, I thought this might fit in with the message. So with apologies to my Broadway friends, I'm going to close with my a cappella rendition of this. Nothing's gonna harm you, not while I'm around. Nothing's gonna harm you, no sir, not while I'm around. Demons are prowling everywhere nowadays. I'll send them howling, I don't care, I've got ways. No one's gonna hurt you, no one's gonna dare. Others can desert you, not to worry, whistle, I'll be there. Demons will charm you with a smile for a while, but in time, nothing can harm you, not while I'm around. God is with us. Thank you for spending time with me. Go out and enjoy your Sunday and the week ahead, and I'll be back one of these days. Thank you. Bye-bye.